They might be self-aware.
This is Gary, professional voice actor, live from a Shell station payphone, paid in what I can only describe as pity money. Today on They Might Be Self-Aware, the guys are covering Nano Banana Pro beating Midjourney. And I gotta say, I thought nano meant small and affordable, like me. But apparently, it needs a nuclear power plant. Also, Gemini 3 won't stop adding features nobody wants, which I feel seen because I also try way too hard and ruin everything. And I'm staring at a banana I can't afford. The banana's 99 cents. I counted. Enjoy the show.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
Tracking the mad dash to automate humanity right here on They Might Be Self-Aware. I'm Hunter Powers, joined by...
the Mad Dasher himself, Daniel.
Wow, that was really fast, Daniel.
Have
we automated humanity yet? Where are we on this path?
I don't think we're there yet, right?
But we have started. Like, some of it's automated, right?
For sure.
Like your humanity.
It's not none of
what percentage of your humanity is automated at this point, Daniel?
Of my humanity?
Yeah, of your humanity. No, yours. Your humanity.
10? It's got to be at least 10%.
10% of your humanity is gone, basically. Once it's automated, is it still humanity?
No, I guess it's Robanity? Roboted?
Robanity. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Beep boopity?
Well, I'll give you one example where potentially there's a little bit less humanity, or maybe there's even more now, and that is Google's Nano Banana 3.
What a great name.
Nano Banana 3.
Nano Banana Pro from
3.
Gemini 3.
This is a good, yes.
Right.
Nano Banana Pro from Gemini 3, powered by Gemini 3. Which, I don't know, I guess, let's talk a little bit about Gemini 3. Have you used, last time we talked, you hadn't really used it yet. You'd read about it. But have you used it since? Because I've had some interesting interactions with it.
I'm positive the interesting that I've seen and that you've seen are going to be wildly different. Why don't you tell us the interesting you've seen, Hunter?
So I've had to abandon it for any coding tasks. Like I will not let it come anywhere near my coding tasks. And that is because it is incredibly creative. And I just can't have that. Like I give it a task and it does that task and it does 10 other things at the same time. And by the way, most of them are pretty good ideas. It's like, yeah, I should have done that too.
It sees your code base and it's like, I see what you're asking for, and this is garbage. I'll just make it. Hey, I'll do what you wanted, but while I'm here, I'll also clean up some other stuff.
I can't discuss the specifics because it's, company private information, but like literally it added new features and I was testing out the thing that it built and I was like, well, what is this? And it probably added like 4 extra features and then decided to refactor, which basically means like recode a whole other section. Mm-hmm. And by the way, it broke it horribly. But the one thing I asked it for, it actually did do a good job on. And so then I was like, well, please go back and remove all that other stuff. Just do the one thing I asked. And it went into like an infinite loop of trying to figure out get diffs and all these sort of things. And I was like, no. And back to GPT-5 High Codex. This is my current GPT-5 High Codex. My current default. Yeah. Anyways,
I've become enamored with Claude Code. That's just sort of where I'm at. But I've been doing almost no coding with Gemini 3, rather because of that creativity.
Yeah.
I've been trying out some of the other stuff that they've got. Before we get into that, though, I do want to mention when it comes to asking like an employee to accomplish a given task, I think that you're running up against with Gemini 3 the same thing that you'd run up against with people, which is to say, hey, make the system better and here's this one thing that I gave you. It's entirely reasonable to suspect a human employee might also, while they're in there, start making some other changes. this is what tools are for. One of those tools being like project management software. Think of your Jiras or your Monday.coms or whatever, where you could say, here is task. Just do this task. You have acceptance criteria for the task. It's all hooked in. And
a good engineer knows don't expand the scope of the task. Maybe create new tickets. Create your list of ideas.
Sure.
But you're working on a ticket. You don't add
ticket, do
5 new features. Yes.
Right. And I think that that's more a failing of what and how we're asking these things and the context in which they're doing them, as opposed to the model not being able to do the thing being asked of it.
Well, GPT-5 High Codex does not have these issues.
Does just what you tell it to and nothing else.
Laser targeted.
Mm-hmm. I've found that the various Claude, whatever type models do seem to do a pretty good job of just do the one thing that I asked of you, please. It used to be a lot worse about that. Now it's getting better. But what have I been using? Gemini 3. It's new. It's hot off the presses. I've been using it for more of the creative type writing because I have heard that it's really, really creative. And so I like to run... This is my... maybe I would turn it into a benchmark or something. I don't know. The point is I have fun with it. I'll come up with horrifically pretentious ideas for like a multi-course meal, and then I'll run that same idea against a few different large language models. I'll give you an example. Thank you an example. I want a 5-course meal that represents the French Revolution from the beginning of it through sort of the aftermath of the French Revolution. Give me 5 different courses that, bring me on a food and historical journey throughout that time period, which, seems very high-minded or whatever, very haute cuisine, very avant-garde, very something. I don't know. Pretentious is the word that I keep coming back to. And because these models are conditioned to say, like, you give me an idea and I'll give you something back, they always come up with something. And it's half the recipe and half how it explains it. Because a lot of, I think, food could be very much in how you sell it. So I tried running a couple of things against Gemini versus Claude versus ChatGPT, one of the GPT-5 type models.
Yeah.
And I haven't made any of these multi-course crazy type meals yet. Maybe I will do one of them someday. Well, that's a whole episode, perhaps. Daniel in the kitchen cooking something that a robot told him to cook.
The results. Well, the menu. Good?
The menu. So from what I can see from both the descriptions as well as also the output, it's so hard to pick one versus another. I don't have a winner between really any of the state-of-the-art LLMs at this time, which doesn't seem like a helpful thing to say, except something that I've been harping on for a while now, which is the best large language models for many of their use cases are basically indistinguishable from each other. Maybe under coding or for this one programming language, or it knows a little bit more of this one framework without having to look at... Sure, fine. For creative type work, I think text go in, different kind of text come out. Like, I think we're done seeing massive improvements. They were all fantastic. I liked everything that I saw from all of the top models.
Yeah, Claude is still my go-to for creative text. Though, in fairness, I haven't really benchmarked it. There's a lot of anecdotal, and I still seem to be super happy every time I go to Claude with a creative text request. But sometimes I have a creative image request, and this is a place where Claude falls down miserably.
That's
and the
true.
giant banana saves me every single time.
The nano banana. It's nano
the
means
opposite.
small, so it's a very small banana.
Very, very tiny banana.
Itty bitty banana.
now in Pro.
So for those who haven't been in the space associated with like image generation, we talk about music a lot. We've talked a bunch recently about video generation and the capabilities having been pushed forward, but I don't think we've talked too much about image generation as of late. There are local large language models, vision, whatever, multimodal type models that you can make images with. Qwen had a pretty good set of them come out recently. But I feel like the big players had mostly moved on to video. However, here we are. Nano Banana. It's extremely good. It's crazy good. It's scary good. Especially for like lay out a bunch of text in the image, do a multi-panel comic. from things that you had to really squint and kind of unfocus your eyes, be like, yeah, no, it got it. And each of the individual panels looks pretty good, but the text is all garbled. I've got an instance of this up right now where I had to just make like a 5-panel comic, and it specifies what each of the panels is. Completely nailed it.
Yeah.
In one shot, like absolutely crazy. I basically don't know what to do with myself at this point.
So this is the second version of Nano Banana, or at least the second version that's been widely released. Yeah, second major. But from the beginning with Nano Banana, its kind of killer feature was the text rendering, especially in comparison with others. The early versions of OpenAI's really couldn't handle text at all. Midjourney, one of the leading image generators, still can't handle text. It's awful at it.
One of the new Quen models has gotten a lot better at it, but still, nothing's holding a candle to the flame that is Nano Banana.
No. OpenAI has since added support for text, but it really feels like they have a couple of fonts and they just detect that you're asking for text and they use one of their fonts to render it. Whereas...
Which is a nice trick.
You can get far more varied font output and custom font output from Nano Banana. Now, a downside of the previous version of Nano Banana is that the images, well, they felt very AI generated. They felt very not photorealistic, and they were fairly low resolution. And there were solutions to get around this, which primarily was go use an upscaler. And upscalers are, I guess, another example of an image generation model where it takes the low resolution image and it attempts to increase the resolution, increase the size of it by enhancing all of the details.
And then just kind of dreaming up what would be in between what was 1 pixel and now is 4.
Behind the scenes, often what it's doing is slicing the image into individual blocks and then upscaling those individual blocks through. You can kind of think of it as running the Nano Banana many times over each small section. And they're pretty good. That was my sort of default workflow before, but now with Nano Banana Pro running on Gemini 3, it can generate high resolution images, I think up to 4K. And they look far more photorealistic than before.
Or realistic if you want, or stylized. Sure. I asked for a watercolor, as if like the comic was made in watercolors, and it made that. I will say, in comparison to the ChatGPT, OpenAI, whatever, their various current offerings, there's this like sepia tone filter that was basically added onto pretty much everything that they made. It wasn't just that font, and there is sort of like an OpenAI image generator vibe that you can kind of see from it. Don't have that in Gemini. I'm sure it was a stylistic choice or something that they had to say, well, no, you can always tell that it's one of our generations. I don't know why they did it. I'm sure there was a very good reason, or a bunch of them. But I was getting kind of sick of seeing them. It's nice that Gemini doesn't do that. Grok has a pretty good generator too, and they're doing video and stuff these days as well.
Yes, it keeps getting better, but it still tends to not. I want photorealism. That is generally the aesthetic that I'm looking for. A very stylized photo, and I don't think that Grok excels at that. It is absolutely getting better.
Guy. You're not impasso.
Midjourney.
Out of terms.
Midjourney is my perfect photo image generator. It pretty much nails the aesthetic that I have in my mind every single time, except it can't handle text. You can ask it to do text, but it will be random characters and random words, and you're going to have to generate it a whole bunch of times before you get something that approximates the text that you wanted. And it's not nearly as good as at following like very specific instructions. You've got to give it a little, creative leeway in its generations, but it will come back to you with brilliance that I do not see from any of these others. It feels like an artist. When I use Midjourney, I feel like an artist created my image. And I don't feel that from the others, but I think we're like 65% of the way there with the others. There's no reason to think that they won't get there eventually.
Well, that, and just like a lot of these other tools aren't supposed to, shall I say, replace people, so too could you say, I want to generate this sort of image that I wouldn't have ever seen myself paying like a real person to do, but I still wish to see it. I guess that's kind of where that use case is. Like, I'm very much on the side of, if this is something that is quote unquote real enough that you'd want to be using it, whether it be for like commercial reasons or whatever, it feels nicer to use people still to create art. And I don't know if that's just me being, I know, human centric, for example, but I do think that there is something to be said for, just like we're not, hopefully not, replacing every programmer yet with AI. I don't think every artist should be replaced. I think that these are tools that can absolutely be part of that tool set that artists and so on use. But I don't know, am I just fighting against the tides of time?
Yes, you 100% are. And if you want to know the hack, generate your image in Midjourney, download it, upload it into Nano Banana Pro, and have it fix the text for you in any minor layout inconsistencies. I
was going to ask if you'd tried that. So yes. How does that work? It's a workflow as opposed to a one-click solution, but...
Yes. I find that probably 90% of my large language model, transformer, generative AI interactions are workflowish. There are many steps in everything. There's a ton of AI in everything that I produce, but it is almost never. I just went into one app and did one prompt and copy and pasted it into what you're looking at now. It is often many, many steps.
Is that the difference between AI haves and AI have-nots, where the have-nots can get pretty good output from one click and are making do with that, versus the Hunter Powerses of the world who have a whole bunch of nodes connected in strands, connecting them like one of those boards with the string for trying to find a murderer?
I think that it's part of it. It's not uncommon for people to ask me, did you use AI for that? Is that AI generated?
Is that how they say it?
Yeah, it's exactly how they say it, for the record. Exactly. Exactly. And my standard response is, you know what? Why don't you use AI and create the same thing? Let me see what comes out. Go ahead. How much time do you need? You know what? Because they will never do it, man. They're never going to do it. There were 18 steps in these prompts that have evolved and then editing together. And I'm willing to accept that eventually whatever genius that was involved in the creation of the 18 steps and prompts, will get diminished by the AI as it does better of figuring out from, the starting prompt to the end. But there's a lot of human ingenuity leveraging this tooling. And
so the same point that I was trying to make, which is we're not going to get rid of the artists. We're not going to get rid of the coders.
No, it's just evolving. It's evolving.
A suite of tools, and more capabilities go into those tools by the day, it seems. But you still are the orchestrator who says, I'm the one responsible for the work coming out. I will use the tools available to me to make thing. For example, if you take Gemini's Nano Banana Pro, for example, and you put it into, I don't even know what the software would be because I'm super not in this field, but like a UI UX designer, I need to make something using this font. Thank you.
Which, by the way, has already integrated it.
Sure. Great. Yeah. So I use Figma for my work. I'm going to use Nano Banana Pro. You almost got me. I'm going to use Nano Banana Pro to make this icon in this specific style using this color palette. It's just going to get easier to do that. And while that does eventually lead to erosion of new jobs and possibly less existing jobs for people doing that because each person gets more effective, the job of do UI UX design, I don't think goes away.
Yeah.
It still is a person involved in there. And granted, that's at like a mid to larger size company. At a little bitty company, at a scrappy startup, where you're having one person who wears a bunch of hats and has to do a whole bunch of stuff because there's like 3 people that work at the company. They've always been, well, I'll just use the clip art version, or, I'll just grab something off the shelf. So those who don't have the space to have a dedicated UI UX designer are going to be the ones who say, I'll just use Nano Banana Pro and just throw it out the door and say that's good enough. And it's getting a lot better each time that there's an update to any of these tools. Before Figma itself is one of the tools that these people use in the pursuit of their job. Before Figma, they were using something else, and they were using something else before whatever that was, and so on and so forth.
You've spoken a few times about how you can now get a week's worth of work done in a day, and again,
Absolutely.
the relative week. So we go back 5 years, what you could get done in a week, today you can get done in a day. I don't know what the actual time delta is there. And I think that's going to be true for most professions, leveraging these new tools. But by the way, again, just throughout, as has happened throughout history, when new tools come out and new software comes out and new technology comes out, and we have factory lines and we have a computer and we have a calculator, the amount of work that we can complete in the time, it compresses. And maybe this is a bigger compression than we've seen before, but it's not that the work goes away. It's just that it gets compressed down, that the iteration cycle is much, much, much lower. So yeah, you can create the first version of the icon in a day versus a week. But what does that really mean? It means that you're probably going to create another version of the icon on day 2. Like, let's go ahead and do Rev 2 and Rev 3. I'll give you 3 days. We used to take a week. Now we take 3 days. But the result is the version 3 of the icon. Yeah.
Right. I think
that's
if
how
we
it goes.
leave the tech sphere entirely, and frankly, even leave AI
That
behind.
makes me
at this
very
point.
uncomfortable.
I know, but stick with me for just a second. I know for a fact that there are less farmers today than there were hundreds of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of the population of humanity, since we had agriculture, were involved in doing agriculture until really recently, like historically. The advent of tractors and like mechanical plows as opposed to a horse pulling a thing have dramatically, like 100x plus 100x, whatever, a gigantic extra amount of efficiency has come to an entire field, and I use that term on purpose, of work. Just because there are more and better tractors than there used to just be horse-drawn whatevers, like, okay, there are less farmers, and that freed up a portion of the workforce to work on other things. We will continue to see disruption in all, I think, industries, probably even farming, as it relates to integration of AI tools. But that doesn't mean that there isn't still work that people can do, still something economically valuable or meaningful. There is possibly that risk of like, whoops, we automated all of the existing jobs, and then we do have to start looking at what's our UBI type situation. Otherwise, there's just no people to have food. There's no money because every job got automated. I hope that we will get to that utopian vision of, oops, we automated away all of the work. I guess everyone gets to just chill now.
Do you think that there is a brighter future for technical professions or creative professions?
I hope it's for all. Technical,
For all.
creative,
Equal.
or for non-technical / creative. If you want to think of everything from a warehouse worker up to a very sort of working in the abstract product manager or and everyone
Warehouse
in between.
worker.
Yes,
Describe your brighter future for the warehouse worker.
they aren't doing that, and they can literally do something else.
Congratulations, warehouse workers. Our brighter future is we're going to get rid of your job.
Yes.
Couldn't they have that brighter future today? They don't need the technology, Daniel, to have that brighter future. Why don't they just go get another job right now?
The brighter future that is they still have their job is maybe an exosuit or something where they don't have to literally do back-breaking work. But the future that I think we're all going to push toward is much of what constitutes work today will be gone. Across all sectors. Not 5 years from now, probably not 10 years from now, 20, 30, something. Within our lifetimes, look at the rate at which these things have been getting better, both in terms of like real world ability to interact with things, robots, versus just large language models, tools available to them. Why isn't work as we see it going to be gone in 3 decades?
Well, I mean, anything could happen in 3 decades. My hypothesis.
How about this? What about like 4 to 5 years? You were talking the other day,
Yeah.
the other recording, shall we say, about that we're in a bubble or that we're not. You and I keep going back and forth on this. Maybe it's because we're just influenced by the last thing that we'd read. I was talking about how there's only so many data centers that you can have. There's only so much of it. And there are a couple of laws of programming, Moore's law, where every 18 months chip capacity or number of transistors is supposed to get, 2x, I think, every 18 months?
That's correct.
Right. So there's a few things like that, but the general gist that most people can just hold on to is computers are getting faster and more efficient. That's nice. Google says in like 4 to 5 years, they want a 1000x increase in compute capacity while also keeping their costs and power constant. That means you're going to need a ton more data centers that also are a lot more energy efficient, I guess. Or is it just all offset via we bought a bunch of solar and carbon credits?
Or they're in space. Let's not completely rule out my space hypothesis.
Heard it anywhere except from you.
Yeah, we absolutely have a power crunch if that's the question that you're asking. I think I read that Meta is like getting into like the trading power futures, the old Enron thing, in order to try to figure this out, because these giant companies almost need their own power plants where they need giant nuclear reactors to power all of these servers. That does seem to be a very real limit that we are encroaching. And there's certainly been a lot of talk at the federal level about our electrical infrastructure and needs for upgrades. If America really wants to be the dominant force in AI, which I believe they have the opportunity to be.
Given how big and important to the backbone of the entire internet that and I say this knowing that they've had outages very recently, your Cloudflares, Flares, and your AWSs and your Azures and whoever else out there. But there are not that many companies that are basically responsible for pretty much every website and service working.
Sure. Is
it not inconceivable that but a few years from now, we might find a very sort of AI, LLM, ultra-capitalistic approach to fixing the electrical infrastructure of the United States by virtue of like AWS saying, our US East 1 area is so important that we will just buy and fix the grid ourselves. If they're already having
so you're talking about the privatization.
Yeah, a privatization of like the electrical grid.
And this is already happening.
And right, because you mentioned like the power plants thing.
Correct. Meta has gone down the path of trying to purchase
one more out from there. We're also going to take over the lines and the maintenance thereof and the delivery mechanisms, and now we are also an energy company.
Yay, capitalism.
We did it.
No one can afford electricity anymore.
You have to watch ads in order to turn on your electricity.
A little bit of a catch-22.
Oof. But, that made me sad to say. That hurt.
All right, but we're happy with the Nano Banana, right? Like this was a good thing.
It's
even though apparently it's going to lead to the downfall of the electrical system. But
right.
The takeaway for you viewers out there, you listeners out there, is
it's getting better.
It's getting better. Nothing to worry about here. Everything is fine.
You heard it from us,
right here on your number one source of AI insights and tracking that path towards the eventual self-awareness when we all just kind of magically disappear in a poof. There's that poof of smoke.
Again, I'm really hoping for the end scenario where we just chill. Everyone just gets to kind of hang out. Or we get uploaded to the cloud, forcibly or otherwise, perhaps. But
Well, Daniel, if people want to know about this inevitable outcome.
The income outcome.
Yeah, that you are, so that they know the day when they can just chill. How would they do this, Daniel? How would they find out?
Check your Meta Presents energy bill to see how that's going up or down. But there might be a link at the bottom of that for checkout. They might be self-aware. We're on Spotify.
Just subscribe.
The answer is subscribe. Podcast. You should subscribe to us. You should like us. You should comment us, because that way we have a higher chance of making its way onto the sort of electrical infrastructure bill at the bottom, because there's going to be ads there too. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Subscribe. It's free. It's twice a week.
You click on a physical ad like that. Oh, there's a QR code. That's what it is. I got there. It took me a sec.
All right.
Yeah, well, we love you. You should listen to us. You are currently listening.
True.
I'm going to stop telling you, the person listening and viewing, to
tell someone else?
You already did it. You should tell someone else. Tell 2 other people and have them tell 2 people, and so on.
Yeah, or post some feedback. We do read the feedback. Also, our good friend Jerry is sometimes down there. Gary, not Jerry. Gary. See, I don't even know the dude's name.
We're not sure.
I don't even know the dude's name. He's a weird dude, but we keep him. You know what? We're at the end of the show. If you the dude, he's a bit insane, and in fact, his intros are kind of awful. But apparently, he's a professional, or he was a professional. But I have this sort of he's very worried about AI taking his job, but I have this theory that he was never very good at his job in the first place. But I enjoy that we employ him, and I don't think he listens through the whole show anyway, so he probably is not hearing this point.
Gary or Jerry,
don't tell him in the
pleasure
comments.
to have you with us.
All right, until next time, right here on.
They might be self-aware.